Good evening. Welcome to the RPI Playhouse, where tonight we present our performance of Liaisons Dangereuses. At this time, we kindly request that you turn off all cell phones and other electronic devices. Also, we remind you that the use of flash photography is strictly prohibited throughout the performance. In the unlikely event of an emergency, please be aware that the fire exits are located at the front right and rear of the theater. Thank you. We hope you enjoy the show.
Well, my dear, so you've left the convent for good.
Yes, madame.
And how are you adapting to the outside world?
Very well, I think. I'm so excited to have my own bedroom and dressing room.
I'd advise her to watch and learn and be quiet except when spoken to. She's very naturally still prone to confusion. Yesterday she was under the impression my shoemaker had come to dinner.
It wasn't that, Mama. It was when he fell to his knees and caught hold of my foot. It startled me.
No doubt you thought he was attempting to propose marriage. Never mind, my dear. You'll soon get used to it. We must see what we can devise for your amusement. Very well, send him up. The Vicomte is here.
Oh, you receive him, do you?
Yes, so do you.
Well, I thought perhaps under the circumstances.
Under what circumstances? I don't believe I have any grounds for self-reproach.
On the contrary, as far as I know, you're virtually unique in that respect.
And of course, if I did, he would no longer be calling on me.
The Vicomte de Belmont, my child, who you probably don't remember, except that he is conspicuously charming, never opens up his mouth without first calculating what damage he can do.
Then why do you receive him, Mama?
Everyone receives him. He has a distinguished name, a large fortune, and a very pleasant manner. You'll soon find that society is riddled with such inconsistencies. We're all aware of them. We all deplore them, and in the end, we all accommodate them. Besides which, people are quite rightly afraid to provoke his malice. No one has the slightest respect for him, but everyone is very nice to him.
Madam,
Vicomte!
What a pleasant surprise.
how delightful to see you, madam.
You remember my daughter Cecile?
Well, indeed. Who could have foretold she would flower so gracefully? I wanted to call on you before leaving the city.
Oh, I'm not sure we can allow that. Why should you want to leave?
Paris in August, you know, and it's time I paid a visit to my old aunt. I've neglected her disgracefully.
I approve of your aunt. She takes such an intelligent interest in the young. She's been able to maintain a kind of youthfulness of her own. All the same.
Could you please give Madame de Rosemont our warmest regards? She's invited us to the chateau, and I hope perhaps later this evening.
I'll be sure to make a point of it. Please don't let me interrupt your game, madam.
I think I've lost enough for one evening.
Your daughter evidently finds our conversation intriguing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think it's time we took you home.
I'm used to being in bed by 9 at the convent.
So I should hope.
Your aunt?
That's right.
Whatever for? I thought she'd already made arrangements to leave you all her money.
She has. But there are other considerations. Family obligations, that kind of thing.
Do you know why I summoned you here this evening?
I wanted my fee for the pleasure of my company.
I need you to carry out a heroic enterprise. Something for your memoirs.
I don't know when I shall find the time to write my memoirs.
Then I'll write them. You remember when Garcourt left me?
Yes.
And went off with that very fat mistress of yours whose name escapes me?
Yes.
No one has ever done that to me before. Or to you, I imagine.
I was glad to be rid of her, to be frank.
No, you weren't. One of Garcourt's more crass and boring topics of conversation was what exactly he would look for in a wife. What qualities, when the time came for him, as he put it, to settle down.
Yes.
He had a ludicrous theory that blondes were inherently more good girl, and he was also unshakably prejudiced in favor of convent education. And now he's found the ideal candidate.
Cecile Volange.
Very good.
And her 60,000 a year, that must have played some part in his calculations.
I tell you, if she were an uncloistered brunette, she could be worth twice that, and he wouldn't go near her. His priority, you see, is a guaranteed virtue.
I wonder if I'm beginning to guess what it is you're intending to propose.
Gurkor is with his regiment in Corsica until October. That should give you plenty of time.
You mean to?
She's a rosebud,
You think so?
and he'd come back from honeymoon to find himself the laughingstock of Paris.
Well,
Yes, love and revenge. Two of your favorites.
no, I can't.
What?
You know how difficult I find it to disobey your orders. But really, I can't.
Why not?
It's too easy. It is. What is she, 15? She's seen nothing. She knows nothing. She's bound to be curious. She'd be on her back before you unwrap the first bunch of flowers. Anyone who doesn't manage it, I have my reputation to think of.
I think you underestimate her. She's very pretty, and she has a rather promising air of languor.
You mean she falls asleep a lot? But perhaps your Bella Roche is the man for her.
Bella Roche is an idealist.
Oh, bad luck. I knew there was something the matter with him.
There is someone who's fallen for her. Young Dawsony. He goes round to sing duets with her.
And you think he'd like to try a little close harmony?
Yes, but he's as timid and inexperienced as she is. We couldn't rely on him. So you see, it'll just have to be you.
I hate to disappoint you.
I really think you're going to refuse me, aren't you?
I can see I'm going to have to tell you everything.
Of course you are.
Yes, well, my trip to the country to visit my more or less immortal aunt. The fact of the matter is, it's the first step towards the most ambitious plan I've ever undertaken.
Well, go on.
You see, my aunt is not on her own just at the moment. She has a young friend staying with her, Madame de Tourvel.
Yes?
She is my plan.
You can't mean it.
Why not? To seduce a woman famous for her strict morals, religious fervor, and the happiness of her marriage. What could possibly be more prestigious?
I think there's something very degrading about having a husband for a rival. It's humiliating if you fail and commonplace if you succeed. There is anyway.
Presiding over some labyrintine case in Burgundy, which I'm reliably informed will drag on for months.
I can't believe this. Apart from anything else, she's such a frump. Bodice up to her ears in case you might catch a glimpse of a square inch of flesh.
You're right, clothes don't suit her.
How old is she anyway?
22.
And she's been married?
2 years.
Even if you do succeed, you know what?
What?
All you'll get from her is what she gives her husband. I don't think you can hope for any actual pleasure. They never let themselves go, those people. Vicomte, if you ever make her heart beat faster, it won't be love, it'll be fear. Honestly, sometimes I wonder about you. How could you make such a fool of yourself over a complete non-entity?
Careful, you're speaking of the woman
Yes.
I've set my heart on. I haven't felt this strongly about anything since you and I were together.
And you're going to pass up this wonderful opportunity for revenge?
If I have to.
You don't have to. I won't tell anyone about this bizarre aberration of yours.
I think you'll have to wait at least until I've had her before I can allow you to insult her. And besides, I can't agree with your theories about pleasure. You see, I have no intention of breaking down her prejudices. I want her to believe in God and virtue and the sanctity of marriage and still not be able to stop herself. I want passion, in other words. Not the kind we're used to, which is as cold as it is superficial. No, I don't get much pleasure out of that anymore. I want the excitement of watching her betray everything that's most important to her. Surely you would understand that. I thought betrayal was your favorite word.
No. Cruelty, I think that has a nobler ring to it.
You're terrible. You're 100 times worse than I'll ever be. Ever since we started this little mission, you've made many more converts than I have. You make me feel like an amateur.
And so you are. Really, you might as well be in love.
Well, if love is not being able to think of anyone else all day, or dream of anything else all night, perhaps I am. Which is why I must have her to rescue myself from this ridiculous position.
Love is something you use, not something you fall into like quicksand, remember? It's like a medicine. You use it as a lubricant to nature,
How is Belleroche?
Well, he is in love. I thought it might be time to end it last week. I tried to start a quarrel, but he looked so woebegone I relented, and we spent the best night we've ever had. Since then, of course, he's been more assiduous than ever, but I'm so pleased with him I'm keeping him at arm's length. He hasn't yet learned that excess is something you reserve for people you're about to leave.
You're not about to leave him.
No, I told you at the moment I'm very pleased with him.
And he's currently your only lover.
Yes,
I think it most unhealthy, this exclusivity.
you're not jealous, are you?
Well, of course I am. Belleroche is completely undeserving.
I thought he was one of your closest friends.
Exactly. So I know what I'm talking about. No, I think you should arrange an infidelity. With me, for example.
But I thought we agreed it was far more important to be able to preserve our friendship and trust each other implicitly.
I'm sure that wasn't just a device to heighten our pleasure.
You refuse to grant me a simple favor, and then you expect to be indulged.
It is only because it is so simple. It wouldn't feel like a conquest. I have to follow my destiny, you see. I have to be true to my profession.
Well, in that case, come back when you've succeeded with Madame de Trevelle,
Yes,
and I will offer you a reward.
my love.
But I shall require proof,
Certainly.
written proof,
Ah.
not negotiable.
And I'm sure you'll find someone to help you with a little belong.
She is so lovely. If my morals were less austere, I'd take it on myself.
You are an astonishing woman.
Thank you.
I only wish you had confidence in me to give me my reward in advance.
Good night, Vicomte.
So he understood what was going on, did he?
Oh yes, sir. I was watching him and he was watching you.
I just hope he was better at understanding what was happening than he was at shadowing me. I sat down for a rest on the way, and he was trampling about behind some bush, making so much noise I had a good mind to give him a leg full of small shot. Except then I suppose he would have had even more trouble keeping up.
He knew what you were up to. And after you'd gone, you went and talked to the family.
I must say, the family was very well chosen.
Thank you, sir.
Solidly respectable, gratifyingly tearful. No suspiciously pretty girls, well done.
I do my best for you, sir.
And not even unduly expensive. 56 livres to save an entire family from ruin. That seems a genuine bargain.
These days, my lord, you can find half a dozen families like that in any village in the country.
Really? I must say it's no longer a mystery to me why people fall so easily into the habit of charitable enterprises. All that humble gratitude, it was most affecting.
Certainly brought a tear to my eye, sir.
And how are things going with the maid?
Julie? Well, to tell you the truth, it's been rather boring. If I weren't so anxious to keep your lordship abreast, I don't think I'd have bothered more than just the once. And I'm really not sure that she doesn't feel the same. But, you know, what else is there to do in the country?
Yes, it wasn't so much the details of your intimacy I was after, so much as, do you think she'll bring me Madame de Tourvelle's letters? And will she keep her mouth shut?
She won't steal the letters, sir.
She won't.
You know better than me. It's easy enough getting them to do what they want to do. It's getting them to do what you want them to do. That's what gives you a headache.
And that is often as not.
And as for keeping her mouth shut, I haven't asked her to keep her mouth shut because that's the one thing most likely to give her the idea of going and opening it up.
You may well be right. But look, she told me she'd been warned about me. Which means some officious friend must have written to her. I need to know who.
I shouldn't worry about all that if I was you, sir. if she's interested enough to have you followed, I'd say it's only a matter of time.
You think so?
Anyways, apparently she keeps her letters in her pockets.
I wish I knew how to pick pockets. Why don't our parents ever teach us anything useful? Where do you meet with the maid?
Oh, in my room, sir.
And is she coming tonight?
I'm afraid so.
Then I'm afraid I may have to burst in on you. See if blackmail works better than bribery. Will roundabout 2 work for you? I don't want to embarrass you. Will that give you enough time?
Ample, sir.
Good.
If you're going to blackmail her, sir, you won't have to pay her, will you?
Oh, I think if she delivers, we can afford to be generous. Don't you?
It's your money, sir.
Don't worry. I shan't forget your contribution.
Well, that's very decent of you, sir.
Off you go then. See you at 2.
Right. I'll be sure to arrange her so she can't say she's there to borrow a clothes brush.
Here he is. I said he would be here.
Lady.
Madame de Trevelle has some mystery to reveal to us.
To you, Madame, to you.
Oh, well then, perhaps I should go for a walk.
No, it concerns you as well. I mean, it particularly concerns you. In fact, I must begin by asking you some questions.
Very well. Just let me help my aunt to her share first. Now,
Where did you go this morning, monsieur?
well, as you know, I got up early to go out hunting.
And did you succeed in making a kill this time?
No, I've had the most wretched luck ever since I arrived. Also, I'm a terrible shot.
But on this occasion, Monsieur le Vicomte, what exactly was it you were hunting?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't quite follow.
You may as well without me see. I know where you were this morning.
I think it's time somebody explained to me what's going on.
Georges, my footman, just happened to be in the
I
village.
hope you haven't been listening to servants gossip.
I can see Monsieur de Valmont is determined not to tell me. So I shall tell you. There's a family in the village. The man has been ill. He found himself not able to pay his taxes, it seemed. So this morning the bailiff arrived to seize their few sticks of furniture. Whereupon your nephew, whose valet had been making inquiries in the village to see if anyone was in particular hardship, arrived, paid off the family's debts, and added a generous contribution to help them back on their feet again.
Is this true, my dear?
Well, yes.
Come, let me give you a hug. Oh, it's so like you to make a secret of something like that. We must visit this family in the morning, my dear, to see if we can help in any other way.
Yes, I love that.
Please sit down.
Oh, no, I must see if I can find Monsieur Le Curé. Oh, I shan't be long, but I do want to tell him about this before he leaves. He'll be so pleased.
I can't understand how someone whose instincts are so generous could lead such a dissolute life.
I'm afraid you may have an exaggerated idea, both of my generosity and of my depravity. If I knew who would give you such a dire account of me, I might be able to defend myself. Since I don't, let me make a confession. I'm afraid the key to the paradox lies in a certain weakness of character.
I don't see how so thoughtful an act of charity could be described as weak.
This appalling reputation of mine. You see, there is some justification for it. I've spent my life surrounded by immoral people. I've allowed myself to become influenced by them, and sometimes even taken pride in outshining them. Whereas in this case, I've simply fallen under a quite opposite kind of influence. Yours.
You mean you wouldn't have done it?
Not without your example, no. It was by way of an innocent tribute to your goodness. You see how weak I am. I promised myself I was never going to tell you. But it's just looking at you.
Monsieur,
You needn't worry. I have no illicit intentions. I wouldn't dream of insulting you. But I do love you. I adore you. Please, help me. What is it?
I'm so unhappy.
But why?
Will you leave me now? Well, monsieur, I thought the least I could hope for was that you would respect me.
But I do. Of course I do.
Then forget all this. Don't say another word. You've offended me deeply. It's unforgivable.
I thought you might at least give me some credit for being honest.
On the contrary, This confirms everything I was told about you. I'm beginning to think you may well have planned the whole exercise.
When I came to visit my aunt, I had no idea you were here. Not that it would have disturbed me in the least. You see, up until then, I'd only ever experienced desire, love, never.
That's enough!
No. You made an accusation. You must allow me the opportunity to defend myself. And you were there when my aunt asked me to stay a little longer, and at the time, I only agreed in deference to you. Although I was already by no means unaware of your beauty.
Monsieur!
No. Well, the point is, all this has nothing to do with your beauty. As I got to know you, I began to realize that beauty was the least of your qualities. I became fascinated by your goodness. I was drawn in by it. At the time, I didn't realize what was happening to me, and it was only when I began to feel actual physical pain every time you left the room that it finally dawned on me. I was in love. For the first time in my life. It didn't matter, of course, because I couldn't have you, but it wasn't like it always had been. No, I didn't want to have you. All I wanted was to deserve you.
I really will have to leave you, monsieur. You seem determined to persist with a line of argument you must know I ought not to listen to, and I don't want to hear.
No, please, sit down. Sit down. I've already told you I'll do anything you say.
There is only one thing I would like you to do.
What is it?
But I don't see how I can ask you. I'm not even sure if I want to put myself in the position of being beholden to you.
Oh, please, no. If you're good enough to give me the opportunity to do something you want, anything, it's I who will be beholden to you.
Very well then. I would like you to leave this house.
I don't see why that should be necessary.
Let's just say you spent your life making it necessary.
Well then, of course, I couldn't possibly refuse you. Will you allow me to give my aunt, say, 24 hours notice?
Well, yes, naturally.
I'll find something in my mail tomorrow morning, which obliges me to return at once to Paris.
Thank you. I'd be very grateful.
Perhaps I might be so bold as to ask a favor in return. I think it would only be just if you were to let me know which of your friends has blackened my name.
You know very well that's impossible, monsieur. If friends of mine have warned me against you, they've done so purely in my own interest, and I could hardly reward them with betrayal. But I must say, you devalue the generous offer if you want to use it as a bargaining point.
Very well. I withdraw the request. I hope you won't think I'm bargaining if I ask you to let me write to you.
Well,
I hope you will do me the favor of answering my letter.
I'm not sure correspondence with you is something a woman of honor would permit herself.
So you're determined to refuse all my suggestions, however respectable.
I didn't say that.
I don't see if you could be harmed by conceding me this very minor, but as far as I'm concerned, vitally important consolation.
I would welcome the chance to prove to you that what motivates me in this is not hatred or resentment,
But what?
For God's sake, monsieur, please leave me alone.
I only wanted to say to you, but I hardly thought it would be possible for me to say. Goodbye. I'll write soon. I thought the Dutch were supposed to be famous for their capacity for alcohol.
3 bottles of Burgundy and a bottle of cognac could finish off anyone.
Did he drink that much?
You were pouring.
I hope you're not missing him.
Don't be silly. I just don't think it was necessary for you to bundle him off into your carriage like that.
A man in that condition. I thought it best to send him back to his house.
This is his house.
Oh. I thought it was your house.
He owns it. I just live in it. But he's so rarely in France. It seems a shame.
Oh, well, I'm sure my coachman will use his imagination.
I'm sure, since you're perfectly aware of the situation and have no doubt given him explicit instructions, he won't have to.
Explicit instructions?
Yes.
I must say, Emily, I do think it's the height of bad manners to talk about some foreigner while you're in bed with me. I think some appropriate punishment is called for. Turn over.
All right.
Now you have pen, paper, and ink.
Yes, over in the bureau. Why?
But don't move. My dear Madame de Tourvel, I have just come to my desk. Don't move, I said. In the middle of a stormy night, during which I have been tossed from exaltation to exhaustion and back again, the position in which I find myself as I write has made me more than ever aware of the powers of love. I can scarcely control myself sufficiently to put my thoughts in order, but despite these torments, I guarantee that at this moment I am far happier than you. I hope one day you may feel the kind of afflictance disturbing me now. Meanwhile, please excuse me as I take steps to calm what I can only describe as a mounting excitement. We'll finish it later, shall we?
Well, I must say, Vicomte, I think you've made a serious tactical error. Shouldn't you have taken Madame de Tourvel there and then on the chaise lounge?
I was expecting my aunt and the curé any moment.
Well, it would have been the most interesting thing to happen to them for years.
No, it wasn't at all the moment. I want her to surrender, but not before she's put up a fight.
She seems to be. She succeeded in getting rid of you altogether.
Yes, but I got her to agree to let me write to her.
Well, in the unlikely event of her defenses being pierced by your eloquence, you're not going to be there to take advantage of it, are you? And by the following day, they'll be back in full repair.
Naturally, writing to someone is a poor excuse. And since I really had no choice in the matter, at least I found a way to keep the thing alive.
Perhaps.
I know you're incurably skeptical, but for me, the woman, this is by far the best stage. It's what men talk about all the time, but hardly ever experience. The real intoxication. When you know she loves you, but you're not quite certain of victory.
You know she loves you then?
Well, yes. I left my man there to keep an eye on things, and a hand on the maid. And he tells me that when my letter first arrived, she took it to her room and sat turning it over for hours and hours, sighing and weeping. So it seems a reasonable conclusion. And the maid helped us to another discovery which you might find entertaining.
Oh, yes.
Do you know who it was who kept writing to my beauty to warn her to steer clear of the world's vilest pervert, namely me? It was your damned cousin, that belonged bitch. It's all very well for you to laugh. She sent me back at least a month.
It's not that.
She wanted me away from Madame de Tourvel. Well, now that I am, I intend to make her suffer for it. Your plan to ruin her daughter. Are you making any progress? Is there anything I can do to help? I'm entirely at your disposal.
Well, as a matter of fact, Vicomte, Your presence here today forms part of my plan. I'm expecting young Dawsney at any moment, and I want you to help me stiffen his resolve, if that's the phrase. And then I've arranged for a little scene I think you may find entertaining. Yes, I'm sure you will.
Is that all you're going to say?
Yes, I think so.
Has Dawson not been a great success?
He's been disastrous. Like most intellectuals, he's intensely stupid. He really is a most incompetent boy. Charming, but hopeless.
But what's happened?
Well, little Cecile and I have become extremely thick. We go to my box at the opera and chatter away all evening. I'm really quite jealous of whoever's in store for her. She has a certain innate duplicity which is going to stand her in a very good stead. She has no character and no morals, and she's altogether delicious.
You're going to have to fill me in.
Well, she and Dawsney are head over heels in love. It all started when she asked me if it would be wrong for her to write to him. First I said yes, and later I said no, it would be all right, as long as she showed me both sides of the correspondence. Then I arranged a meeting for them, but Dawsney was so paralyzed with chivalry he didn't lay a finger on her. All of his energy is going to writing her poems of great ingenuity and minimum impact. Then I tried to ginger things up by telling her it was her core her mother intended for her to marry. She was shocked enough to discover he was a geriatric of 36, but by the time I'd finished describing him, she couldn't have hated him more than if they'd been married for 10 years. Then, the first major setback. She told her confessor, and he took a very strong line. So she severed relations with Dawsney and spent all her time praying to be able to forget him, a pleasantly self-contradictory exercise. He remained abject throughout. All I could do was to organize a rendezvous for them to say goodbye to one another. And after all that, what do I find? Dawsney has managed to hold her hand for 5 seconds, and when asked to let go to Cecile's extreme annoyance, he promptly does. You really have to help me put some backbone into that one. Afterwards, little Cecile said to me, "Oh, madame, I wish you were Dawsney." And you know, just for a minute, I wished I was.
I often wonder how you managed to invent yourself.
Well, I had no choice, did I? I'm a woman. Women are obliged to be far more skillful than men because whoever wastes time cultivating inessential skills. You think you put as much ingenuity into winning us as we put into losing. Well, it's debatable, but from then on you hold every ace in the pack. You can ruin us whenever the fancy takes you, and all we can gain by denouncing you is to heighten your prestige. We can't even get rid of you when we want to. We are compelled to unstitch, painstakingly, what you would just cut through. We either have to make you want to leave us, so you'll feel too guilty to harm us, or find reliable means of blackmail. Otherwise, you can ruin our life and our reputation with a few well-chosen words. So of course I have to admit, not only myself, but ways of escape that no one else has ever thought of, not even I, because I have to be fast enough on my feet to know how to improvise. And I've succeeded, because I always knew I was born to dominate your sex and avenge my own.
Yes, but what I asked you was how.
When I first came into society, I realized the role I was condemned to, namely to be quiet and do as I was told, gave me the perfect opportunity to listen and pay attention, not to what people told me, which was naturally of no interest, but to whatever it was they were trying to hide. I practiced detachment. I learned how to smile pleasantly while underneath the table I stuck a fork in the back of my hand. I became not merely impenetrable, but a virtuoso of deceit. Naturally, at that stage, no one told me anything. But it wasn't pleasure I was after, it was knowledge. And when in the pursuit of that knowledge, I told my confessor I'd done everything, his reaction was so appalled, I began to get a sense of how extreme pleasure might be. Upon this discovery, my mother announced my marriage to Monsieur de Bertuis. So I contained my curiosity and was able to arrive in his arms a virgin. All in all, Bertuis gave me little cause for complaint. And the moment I did begin to find him something of a nuisance, he very tactfully died. I used my year of mourning to complete my studies. I consulted the strictest moralists to learn how to appear, philosophers to know what to think, and novelists to see what I could get away with. And finally, I had perfected my techniques.
Describe them.
Only flirt with those you intend to refuse. Then you gain a reputation for invincibility while slipping safely away with the lover of your choice. A poor choice is less dangerous than an obvious choice. Never write letters. Get them to write letters. Always make sure they think they're the only one. Win or die.
These principles are infallible, are they?
When I want a man, I have him. When he wants to tell, he finds he can't. That's the whole story.
Is that our story?
I wanted you before we'd even met. My self-esteem demanded it. And then when you began to pursue me, I wanted you so badly. It's the only one of my notions that's ever got the better of me. Single combat.
Thank you.
Vicomte.
My dear young man, how good to see you again.
I'm sorry to be late, Madame.
Very nearly too late. As you know, Mademoiselle de
It
Volanges.
gives me such pleasure to hear your name spoken aloud, Madame.
Yes, of course. As I was saying, Mademoiselle de Volanges has done me the honor of making me her confidant and counselor in this matter which concerns you both.
She could hardly have chosen more wisely.
Yes, well, be that as it may, I felt very strongly that in this situation, which is exceedingly delicate, you too might find it beneficial to be able to confide in someone, a person of experience. And the Vicomte de Valmont, who is known to you as well as being an old friend of mine and a man of unswerving discretion, seems to me to be an ideal choice. And should you agree, he's very kindly consented to devote himself to your interests.
Well,
I hope it's not my reputation which is causing you to hesitate. If so, I think I can assure you that a man's own mistakes are not necessarily a guide to his faculty for objective judgment.
no, of course not. I wouldn't have the impudence. It's just... the fact is, this is not a conventional intrigue with the aim of... that's to say, my love and respect are...
We're not dealing, you mean, with a frivolous coquette or a bored wife.
Precisely. A person like Mademoiselle de Volanges must be treated with the utmost consideration. And my own position has certain weaknesses, of which I'm only too bitterly aware. Her great fortune, for example, compared to my somewhat precarious condition.
Naturally, there would be no excuse for trying to maneuver her into such a pass that she would be forced to marry you. That would be quite wrong.
You do understand how I feel.
Of course he does. What did I tell you?
You see, I'm quite happy with things as they are, as long as she consents to see me to continue with the music lessons.
Ah, the music lessons. Rest assured, I have no wish to press my intentions upon you.
No, please.
But it is my great honor to be at your disposal.
The honor, monsieur, is entirely mine. Any contact with you would be a privilege.
I'm sorry, Chevalier, but I'm afraid you must leave. Madame de Volanges has just been announced. You see, now I was concerned at your late arrival.
Maybe now would be a good opportunity.
I really feel that at this juncture, monsieur, it would be prudent for you not to be bound here. That is, if you want me to be of any effective assistance in the future.
Of course, whatever you think fit.
My man will show you to a side exit.
I have to go to Versailles tomorrow. I don't know if you care to accompany me.
I'd like that very much.
Good. I'll send a carriage at 9. So this is the scene you've set for me?
If you'd care to go behind the screen.
I do think you might have consulted me before offering my services as general factotum to that exasperating boy. I don't find lovers' complaints remotely entertaining outside of the opera.
Oh, I was sure that if anyone could help him.
Help? He doesn't need help. He needs hindrances. If he has to climb over enough of them, he might inadvertently fall on top of her.
I'll see what I can do. Now, Vicomte, the screen.
Are you sure I should confront her? Give her some evidence for those rude letters?
Quickly!
Your note said it was urgent.
It's been days now. I haven't been able to think of anything else. I couldn't decide what to do for the best. Finally, I saw there was no escaping the fact it was my plain duty to tell you. Please sit down. As you know, in recent weeks, Cecile has done me the honor of accepting my friendship and I believe bestowing upon me her own.
Yes, of course. She's devoted to you.
This is what makes this duty doubly difficult to perform.
This has something to do with Cecile?
I may be wrong. I pray heaven I am.
Go on.
Well, I have reason to believe that, how can I describe it? A dangerous liaison has sprung up between your daughter and the Chevalier Doxony.
No. No, that's completely absurd. Cecile is a child and knows nothing of these things. And Doxony is an entirely respectable young man.
If you were to be right, no one would be happier than I.
Naturally, they've never been left together unchaperoned, generally by me and often by you.
Precisely. That's when I first formed the impression that there was something passing between them. The way that they looked at one another.
I'm sure it's merely their feeling for the music.
Perhaps. But there was one other thing. Tell me, does Cecile have a great many correspondents?
She writes, I suppose, an average number of letters? Relatives, friends from the convent? Why?
Well, I went into her room at the beginning of last week. I simply knocked and entered without waiting for a reply. And she was stuffing a letter into the left-hand drawer of her bureau, in which I couldn't help but notice there seemed to be a large number of similar letters.
I'm most grateful to you. I'll see myself out.
I hope you don't find me interfering.
Not at all.
And I do hope, if God forbid you find anything compromising, you won't tell Cecile as I told you. I would hate to forfeit her trust, and if there is to be a period of difficulty, I would like to think that my advice might be of some use to her.
Of course.
Would you think impertinent if I were to make another suggestion?
No.
If my recollection is correct, I think I remember you saying to the Vicomte that his aunt had invited you to stay at her chateau.
Yes, she has, repeatedly.
A spell in the countryside might be the very thing until all this blows over.
What you told me has any truth in it? I may very well send her back to the convent.
Wouldn't it be better to reserve that as a punishment if there's any resumption of relations?
Perhaps. I can't believe you're right about this.
Let's hope not.
Isn't the Vicomte staying there at the moment?
I understand that the Vicomte has returned to Paris. In any case, I suspect I've imagined the whole thing, and tomorrow we'll be able to laugh at my stupidity. If so, I do hope you'll be able to forgive me.
My dear, I shall always be more than grateful for your concern.
Stop it!
So you don't understand I've returned to Paris?
You asked for hindrances,
You are a genuinely wicked woman.
and you wanted a chance to make my cousin suffer.
I can't resist you.
I've made it easy for you.
All this is most inconvenient. The Comtesse de Beaulieu has invited me instead.
Well, you'll have to put her off.
The Comtesse has promised me extensive use of her gardens. It seems her husband's fingers are not as green as they once were.
Yes, but from what I hear, all of his friends are gardeners.
Is that so?
You want your revenge. I want my revenge. I'm afraid there's really only one place you can go.
Back to Auntie, eh?
Back to Auntie, where you can also pursue that other matter. You have some evidence to procure, have you not?
Don't you think it would be a generous gesture? Show proper confidence in my abilities, I mean.
I need it in writing. And now you must leave me,
Must stop. Why?
because I'm hungry.
Yes, I have quite an appetite myself.
Then go home and eat. In writing.
You'll be pleased to hear, my dear, that Armand is on his feet again and back at work.
Who?
You remember whose family you helped so generously?
Oh, yes.
Oh, we've been keeping an eye on things while you've been away. Oh, I must say he never ceases to sing your praises. When my nephew was last here, we discovered quite by chance that he had been down to the village.
Are you feeling all right, madam? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Aunt, but it seemed to me that Madame de Tourvel didn't look at all well. Also.
I know, quite right.
You do look dreadfully pale, my dear.
I'm fine. Perhaps you need some air. Do you feel constricted in any way?
No, really.
I feel sure Madame de Blanche is right as usual. Perhaps a turn around the gardens?
Yes, a little walk in the garden. It's not too cool, I think.
Well, perhaps.
Come along, my dear. We'll all accompany you.
I'll be quite happy on my own.
If you'll excuse me, ladies, I think you're right to insist on chaperoning Madame.
Yes, fresh air will do you a world of good.
The dinner was somewhat heavy, perhaps.
No, I don't think that can be the cause, so long as an excellent cook.
Come back for it. I've no wish to arouse suspicion, mademoiselle, so I must be brief, and I must ask you to pay close attention to what I say. As you no doubt have guessed, the letter I gave you was from our friend the Chevalier Danson.
Yes, I thought so, monsieur.
And as you're also no doubt aware, the handing over of letters is a far from easy matter to accomplish. I can't very well create a distraction every day.
And Mamma is taking away my paper and pens.
Right. Now listen. In the antechamber next to your bedroom, you'll find 2 large cupboards. In the left-hand cupboard, you'll find a supply of paper, pens, and ink.
Thank you.
I suggest you return the Chevalier's letters to me once you've done reading them, for safekeeping.
Must I?
It would be wise. Now, this key resembles the key to your bedroom, which I happen to know is kept in your mother's room on the mantelpiece, tied with a blue ribbon. Take it, attach the blue ribbon to it, and put it in the place of your bedroom key, which you will then bring to me. I'll be able to get a copy cut within 2 hours and return you the original, which you can put back in your mother's room. Then I'll be able to collect your letters and deliver Dansonese without any interruptions. Oh, and on the shelf below the writing paper, you'll find a small bottle of oil and a feather, which you can use to oil the lock and hinges on your bedroom door.
Are you sure, monsieur? I'm not sure it would be right.
How else are we going to manage this? Your mother never lets you out of her sight. You really must trust me, my dear.
Well, I know Monsieur Dawson has every confidence in you.
Believe me, if there's one thing I can't abide by, it's deceitfulness. It's only my very warm friendship with Danceny which would ever make me consider such matters. And now I suggest you return to your mamma and the others before they send out a search party.
Yes, monsieur. Thank you, monsieur.
My pleasure. I trust you're feeling better, madam.
If I felt ill, monsieur, it would not be difficult to guess who was responsible.
You can't mean me, do you?
You promised to leave here.
And I did.
Then how can you be insensitive enough to return uninvited and without warning?
I find myself obliged to attend to some urgent business in the area, in which, moreover, my aunt is crucially involved.
I only hope it can be dealt with promptly.
Why are you so angry with me?
I'm not. Although since you gave me your solemn undertaking not to offend me when you wrote, and then in your very first letter spoke of nothing but the disorders of love, I'm certainly entitled.
I was away 3 weeks, and wrote to you only 3 times, considering I was quite unable to think about anything but you. Some might say I showed heroic restraint.
Not insofar as you persisted in writing about your love, despite my pleas for you not to do so.
It's true. I couldn't find the strength to obey you.
You claim to think that there is some connection between what you call love and happiness. I can't believe that there is.
In these circumstances, I agree. When the love is unrequited,
As it must be. You know it's impossible for me to reciprocate your feelings. And even if I did, it could only cause me suffering without making you any the happier.
but what else could I have written to you about other than my love? What else is there? I believe I've done everything you've asked of me.
You've done nothing of the sort.
I left here when you asked me to.
And you came back. I offered you my friendship, monsieur. It's the only thing I can give. Why can't you accept it?
I could pretend to. That would be dishonest.
You're not answering my question.
The man I used to be would have been content with friendship, and then would have set about trying to turn it to his advantage. But I've changed now, and I can't conceal from you that I love you tenderly, passionately, and above all, respectfully. So how am I to demote myself to the tepid position of friend? And in any case, you're no longer even pretending to show friendship.
What do you mean?
Well, is this friendly?
You can hardly expect me to stay here and listen to the expression of sentiments you know very well I can only find insulting.
I think you're misunderstanding me. I know you can bestow on me nothing more than your friendship, for which, by the way, I'm profoundly grateful. In the same way, I can feel nothing less for you than love. We both know this is the true position. Can't we simply acknowledge it? I don't see why recognition of the truth should lose me your friendship. Openness and honesty scarcely deserve to be punished, don't you agree?
You are adept, monsieur, at framing questions which preclude the answer no. Your honesty or otherwise is not an issue. The point is, surely, that I was weak enough to be persuaded to grant you a favor you should never have obtained. And furthermore, I did this under certain conditions, not a single one of which you have observed. Naturally, I feel you exploit one of them.
What can I say to reassure you? How can you be afraid of me? And because I love you, your happiness is far more important to me than my own. You've made me a better person. You mustn't now undo your handiwork.
I have no wish to. But I must ask whether you're going to leave the room or let me pass.
But why?
Because I find this conversation distressing. I can't seem to make you understand what I mean, and I have no wish to do what you invariably get around to say.
Very well. I shall leave you in possession of the field.
Thank you.
But look, I shall expedite my business as you asked. But we are to be living under the same roof for at least a few days. Could we not contrive to tolerate it when fate throws us together? Surely we don't have to try to avoid each other.
Of course not, providing you adhere to my few simple rules.
I shall obey you in this, as in everything. I only wish you knew me well enough to recognize how much you've changed me. My friends in Paris remarked upon it at once. I've become the soul of consideration, conscientious, charitable, more celibate than a monk.
More celibate?
Well, you know the stories one hears in Paris. It's all due to your influence. I have you to thank for it. And now, good evening.
Monsieur.
What?
Nothing.
Nothing to worry about.
Have you brought a letter?
No. Oh, no.
Then what?
You mustn't do that. What are you going to tell your mother when she arrives? How are you going to explain that I have your key? I have a feeling if I tell her I'm here at your request, she's going to believe me.
What do you want?
I don't know. Why don't you tell me?
No, please don't.
All right. All I wanted is you to give me a kiss.
A kiss?
That's all.
And then will you go?
Then I'll go.
Promise?
Yes, yes.
All right. all right?
Very nice.
No, I mean, will you go now?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
But you promised.
I promised to go when you gave me a kiss. You didn't give me a kiss. I gave you a kiss. Not the same thing at all.
And if I give you a kiss,
That's what I said.
you really promise?
Yes.
Please don't do that.
I'll take it away after the kiss.
Promise?
Yes.
Swear?
I swear. Now put your arms around me. See, I told you I'd take my hand away.
My dear, I really can't help you unless you tell me what's troubling you.
I can't. I just can't.
I thought we'd agreed we wouldn't keep any secrets from one another.
I'm so unhappy. Everything's gone wrong since the day my mom found Anthony's letters.
Yes, that was very stupid of you. How could you let that happen?
Someone must have told her. She went straight to my bureau, opened the drawer I was keeping them in.
Who could have done such a thing?
It must have been my chambermaid.
Or your confessor, perhaps.
Oh no, surely not.
You can't ever trust those people, my dear.
That's terrible.
But today, what is the matter today?
You'll be angry with me.
Are you sure you don't want me to be angry with you? Come along.
I don't know how to speak the words.
Perhaps I am beginning to get angry.
Last night,
Yes.
so that we could exchange letters to and from Dawson without arousing suspicion, I gave Monsieur de Valmont the key to my bedroom,
Yes.
and last night he used it. I thought he'd come to bring a letter, but he hadn't, and by the time I realized why he'd come, it was too late to stop him.
Do you mean to tell me you're upset? Because the Monsieur de Valmont has taught you something you've undoubtedly been dying to learn.
What?
And am I to understand that what generally brings a girl to her senses has somehow deprived you of yours?
I thought you'd be horrified.
Tell me, you resisted him, did you?
Oh, of course, as much as I could.
But he forced you.
It wasn't that exactly. It was just, I found it almost impossible to defend myself.
Why was that? Did he tie you up?
No. He just has a way of putting things, you just can't think of an answer.
Not even, no.
I kept saying no all the time, but somehow that wasn't what I was doing. And in the end,
Yes.
I told him he could come back tonight. I'm so ashamed.
You'll find the shame is like the pain. You only feel it once.
And this morning it was terrible. As soon as I saw Mama, I couldn't help myself. I burst into tears.
I'm surprised you missed the opportunity to bring the whole thing to a rousing climax by confessing all. You wouldn't be worried about tonight if you had done that. You'd be packing your bags for the convent.
What am I going to do?
Do you really want my advice?
Please.
Allow Monsieur de Valmont to continue at your instruction. Convince your mamma that you've forgotten all about Danceny and raise no objection to the marriage.
With Monsieur de Gercourt?
When it comes to marriage, one man is as good as the next. And even the least accommodating is less trouble than the mother.
But what about Dawson?
Oh, he seems patient enough. Once you're married, you should be able to see him without undue difficulty.
But I thought you once said to me, no, I'm sure you did, one evening at the opera, that once I was married, I would have to be faithful to my husband.
Your mind must have been wandering. You must have been paying attention to the opera.
So are you saying I'm going to have to do that with 3 different men?
I'm saying, you stupid little girl, that provided you take a few elementary precautions, you can do it, or not, with as many men as you like, as often as you like, in as many different ways as you like. Our sex has few enough advantages. You might as well make the most of the ones you have. Now here comes your mamma. So remember what I told you, and above all, no more sniveling.
Yes, Mama. How are you feeling now, my dear? Oh, much better. Thank you, Mama.
You look tired. I think you should go to bed.
No, really.
I think you should do as your mother says. I'm sure it would do you good. We can arrange for something to be brought up to you.
Well, perhaps you're right.
I'll come up and see you later on. You have such a good influence on her.
I'd like to think so. But what do you suppose was the matter?
Didn't she tell you?
No, we merely spoke of how she was enjoying the countryside.
That makes me even more certain of the cause of her unhappiness. She's pining for that young man. I'm afraid it's beginning to affect her health.
Do you think so?
This morning I nearly asked her how she slept, and she threw herself into my arms and cried and cried. My dear, I'd be grateful if you'd allow me to discuss this with you seriously. I've been brooding about it all day. Now I really feel I need your advice.
My dear friend, please. I'd be honored to think I could be of any service to you.
Well, I've been reconsidering. I really do think I should break off Cecile's engagement with Monsieur de Gercourt. He's no doubt a much better match than Danceny, but after all, the family is not decidedly superior. Danceny is not rich, but I dare say Cecile is rich enough for the both of them. And the important thing is that they love each other. Don't you agree? You think I'm wrong?
Well, I have every confidence that your eventual decision will be the correct one. If I were able to take a more objective view, it's simply that because in this situation, I am not affected by the altogether praiseworthy emotion of maternal love.
Go on. I do rely on your judgment.
Well, it seems to me a question between what's correct and what's pleasurable. To say that this young man is entitled to your daughter because of his passion for her is a little like saying that a thief is entitled to your money. I'm not at all sure how appropriate of an emotion love is, particularly within marriage. I believe that friendship, trust, and mutual respect are infinitely more important.
And you don't approve of Danceny?
Well, there's no denying that as suitors, there can be no comparison between them. I know money isn't everything, but will $60,000 a year really be enough to maintain the kind of household Cecile will be obliged to run, even as Madame Danceny? Of course, I wouldn't dream of suggesting that Danceny has allowed himself to be influenced by financial considerations, but precisely. But of course, this is only an opinion. Naturally, it's your decision.
Yes.
In any case, I wouldn't take it on the strength of a single outburst, which might have any number of, well, medical explanations, for instance.
Perhaps you're right.
In any case, I hope we can discuss it further once we're all back in Paris.
Mesdames,
If you'll excuse me, monsieur, I must go and arrange for supper to be taken to my daughter.
is she indisposed?
At the moment.
The young have such miraculous powers of recuperation. I'm sure she'll soon be back in the saddle. Tell her I hope so, at least.
Thank you, monsieur.
You see, she can hardly stand to be in the same room as me.
So you had your revenge. Well done.
So you know.
The little one could hardly wait to tell me.
Favorable report, I trust.
On the contrary, Vicomte. I think if I hadn't spoken to her sharply on your next visit, you would have found her door bolted as well as locked.
You surprise me. I was malicious enough to use only as much strength as could easily be resisted.
Still, for some reason, she seems to think it was a rather underhand approach.
I've been postponing it, to tell you the truth. But when I heard you were expected today, I wanted to be able to afford you some amusement at least.
It's just as well I did decide to look in. As it turns out, your initiative came within an ace of sabotaging our whole plan.
What do you mean?
Madame de Volanges was so concerned over Cecile's appearance this morning, she resolved to allow her to marry Dawsney after all.
No.
I think I've managed to talk her out of it. But the fact remains, you almost lost us our revenge on Gercourt.
I could hardly be expected to anticipate this sudden access of compassion. As to my knowledge, Mother Volanges has never shown signs of it before.
I'm beginning to have my doubts about you, Vicomte. Do you really deserve your reputation? You see, the real reason why I consented to spend the night at this lugubrious address was I was hoping to be some tear-stained bit of paper. But I can only assume from what you've been saying that no such document exists.
No.
Probably just as well. No doubt you are exhausted after last night's exertions.
You know me better than that.
Well, I wonder, can you account for this extraordinary dilatoriness?
Lugubrious or not, I haven't experienced a moment's boredom in all the weeks I've spent here. I appreciate you may have excellent reasons for your impatience, but I really must ask you not to deprive me of my simple pleasures. I've explained to you before how much I enjoy watching the battle between love and virtue.
Yes, but what concerns me is that you appear to enjoy watching it more than you used to enjoy winning it.
All in good time.
The century is drawn to a close, Vicomte.
It's true she's resisted me for more than 2 months now, and that's very nearly a record. But I really don't want to hurry things. We go for a walk together almost every day, a little further down the path that has no turning. She's accepted my love, and I've accepted her friendship. We're both aware how little there is to choose between them. Her eyes are closing. Every step she takes away from the inevitable conclusion brings her a little nearer to it. Hopes and fears, passion and suspense. What more could you ask, even if you were in the theater?
An audience.
But you're my audience. And when Gercourt is married, and Madame de Tourtel eventually collapses, we shall tell everyone, shall we not? And the story will spread much quicker than the plot of the latest play, and I've no doubt be much better received.
I hope you're right, Vicomte. I wish I could share your confidences.
I'm only sorry that the reward you set does not relate to the task I set myself, rather than the task you set me.
I am grateful, of course. But that would have been almost insultingly simple. One does not applaud the tenor for clearing his throat.
You're right. How could I possibly compare them?
I'm so delighted you can manage to visit us, my dear, even if only for such a short while.
Oh, I wish I could stay longer, but my husband's estate.
Do you know, I was thinking yesterday, it's more than 5 years since you were last here with your dear husband. Such a kind and such a vigorous man. Who could have imagined, well...
Yes, madame. There's no denying that life can be frighteningly unpredictable.
Much the same as your room, you see. Except here, you can make as much noise as you like, and the mattress is a little harder.
Is that good?
Yes, that's very good.
Come on.
First thing you must learn is there's absolutely no necessity whatsoever for haste. Now, as with every other science, the first principle is you must learn to call everything by its proper name.
I don't see why we have to talk at all.
Without correct, proper, polite vocabulary, how can you indicate what you'd like me to do, or make an offer I might find agreeable?
Surely you would just say,
You see, I think if I do my work right, I'd like to be able to think of being able to surprise Monsieur de Grecourt on your wedding night.
would he be pleased?
Surely he'll just assume your mamma has done her full duty and briefed you.
Mama couldn't possibly talk to anything of the sort.
I don't see why not. She was, after all, at one time, one of the most notorious young women in Paris.
Mama?
Certainly. More renowned for her enthusiasm and her ability, if I remember correctly, but renowned nonetheless. There was a famous occasion, before you were born this would have been, when she went to stay with the Comtesse de Beaulieu, who very tactfully gave her a room between that of your father's and Monsieur de Versailles, who was her acknowledged lover at the time, and despite these careful arrangements, she contrived to spend the night with a third party.
I don't believe that. That's just gossip.
No, I assure you it's true.
How do you know?
This third party was myself. We can return to the subject later, during the intervals. But you asked me if Monsieur de Grecourt would be pleased with your abilities, and the answer is, even if he isn't, I don't think it would be difficult to find others who are. Education is never a waste. Now I think we might start with one or two Latin terms. You're alone, madam.
The others have all decided on an early night. Mademoiselle de Volanges in particular seems to be quite exhausted.
I must admit to be rather tired myself. May I help you with these?
No. Sure, the servants will.
I'm glad to have found you. I very much missed our walk today.
Yes,
I feel with the weather as it is, we can look forward to very few more of them.
this heavy rain is surely exceptional.
But I will have concluded my business in a week.
I see.
I may, however, be unable to bring myself to leave.
Please, you must.
Are you still so anxious to be rid of me?
You know the answer to that. I must rely on your integrity and generosity. I want to be able to be grateful to you.
Forgive me if I say I don't want your gratitude. Gratitude I can get from strangers. What I want from you is something altogether deeper.
I know God is punishing me for my pride. I was so certain nothing like this could ever happen to me.
Something like what?
I can't.
Do you mean love? Is love what you mean?
Don't ask me. You promised not to speak of it.
But I must know. I need this consolation at least.
I can't. Don't you see?
Of course I understand. I don't want to say anything. But I must know if you mean love. I must know. You don't have to speak. Don't speak, just look at me. Just look, that's all I ask.
Yes. For God's sake, you must leave me. If you don't want to kill me, you must help. It's killing me.
Madame de Tourvel has been taken ill. She was having difficulty breathing.
Oh, my dear, whatever is it?
It's all right. I'm all right now.
Leave her in your capable hands, Aunt. Send it out for me if I can be of further assistance.
We must send for a doctor, my dear.
No, please, I don't need a doctor. I'm perfectly all right.
We mustn't take any chances.
No, I must talk to you for a moment. Come and sit by me. I can't speak very loud. What I have to say is too difficult. I have to leave this house first thing in the morning. I'm most desperately in love. To leave here is the last thing in the world that I want to do. But I'd rather die than have to live with the guilt. I don't mind if I die. To live without him is going to be no life at all. But that's what I have to do. Can you understand what I'm saying?
Of course. My dear girl, none of this is any surprise to me. The only thing which might surprise one is how little the world changes. Of course, you must leave if you feel it's the right thing to do.
But what should I do then? What's your advice?
If I remember rightly, in such matters all advice is useless. You can't speak to the patient in the grip of a fever, but we must talk again when you're closer to recovery.
I've never been so unhappy.
I'm sorry to say this, but those who are most worthy of love are never made happy by it. You're too young to have understood that.
But why? Why should that be?
Do you still think men love the way we do? No. Men enjoy the happiness they feel. But we can only enjoy the happiness we give. They're not capable of devoting themselves exclusively to one person. So to hope to be made happy by love is a certain cause of grief. I'm devoted to my nephew, but what's true of most men is doubly so of him.
And yet, he could have. Just now. He took pity on me. I saw it happen. I saw his decision not to take advantage of me.
If he has released you, my dear child, it's because your presence these last few weeks has genuinely changed him. But if he has let you go, you must go.
I will.
There. And even if you have given way, my dear girl, God knows how hard you've struggled against it. There.
in store for me today?
A letter to Madame your aunt, sir, and this one which Julie manages to get to before it was sealed up, to Madame de Tourvel's confessor.
Very good. This is excellent. I have a letter for Father Anselm myself. You may deliver them both when you leave.
Yes, sir.
And what news?
No visitors. There hasn't been a single visitor since she returned from the country. She's kept to her room. Bit of soup last night, but didn't touch the pheasant. Afterwards, a cup of tea. Nothing else to report. Oh, yes, there is. You wanted to know what she was reading? She had 2 books by her bed.
I don't suppose you managed to find out what they were, did you?
Of course I did, sir. What do you take me for? Now, let me think. One of them was Christian Thoughts, Volume 2. And the other one was a novel by some Englishman. Clarissa? See, I was right, wasn't I, sir? There was no need for me to go and join her staff. I can find out everything you need to know, no trouble at all.
I just thought you might want to be paid 2 salaries, as at the time of the Duchess.
Well, sir, with Madame the Duchess, that was quite different. I didn't mind that, of course, but I couldn't very well wear a magistrate's livery now, could I, sir? Now, be fair. Not after having been in your service. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Someday I'll start saving up a little bit, just like you recommended, but I do like to do justice to you.
The letting Madame de Tourvel leave my house in the middle of the night without even managing to warn me. You're lucky to be working for anyone.
Now, we've been through all that, haven't we, sir? Not even Julie knew she was going until she went.
How is Julie?
Seems a bit keener than she was in the country.
And yourself?
Talk about devotion to duty.
Off you go then. Keep it up. Madame, my dear boy,
Thank you, monsieur, for everything.
I was afraid I'd been a sad disappointment to you.
Of course I'm disappointed not to have seen Cecile for more than a month, but I believe I have you to thank for keeping our love alive.
Oh, as to love, she thinks of little else.
I had so hoped you'd be able to arrange a meeting between us in the country.
Well, so had I. I made all the necessary arrangements, but I'm afraid she was adamant.
I know. She said you'd been trying hard to persuade her.
I did what I could. In many aspects, I found her very open to persuasion, but not alas on this matter.
Yes, I know. She said I couldn't be doing more myself than you've been doing on my behalf.
She's a most generous girl.
What else did she say?
She said she'd seen signs of a change of heart from her mother. Perhaps in the end she'll come round to the idea of our marriage.
That would be wonderful.
Anyway, how is she? That's really what I've come round to ask you, monsieur.
Blooming. I really think the country air has done her good. I think she's even begun to fill out a little.
Really?
Yes, and as she, of course she sends you all her love, she and her mother returning to Paris after a fortnight, by which time the situation should be resolved one way or another. Either way, she's longing to see you.
I don't know how I can bear to go another 2 weeks without seeing her.
We must see what we can do to provide you with some amusement.
Without your friendship and encouragement, I don't know what would have become of me.
Chevalier, if you'd care to wait in the carriage for a few minutes, there's a matter I must discuss with the Vicomte in private.
Of course. I don't know how I can ever repay you.
Don't give it another thought. It's been delightful. Poor boy, he's quite harmless.
Well, I must say I thought Cecile's letter sounded unusually witty.
I should hope so. I dictated it.
Vicomte, I do adore you.
I have a piece of news which I think you might find entertaining.
Yes.
I have reason to believe the next head of the House of Gercourt might be a Belmont.
What?
Cecile is 2 weeks late. Aren't you pleased?
I'm not sure. You have rather overstepped your brief.
Provided they hold the wedding before the end of the year, I don't see what harm can come of it.
No, you're right. The situation does have its possibilities. It just makes everything a good deal more chancy. You've used no precautions then?
I've tried to provide her with a thorough grounding in all aspects of our subject, but I'm afraid in this one area I may have misled her to some extent. Your aim was to revenge yourself on Gercourt, and I've provided him with a wife, trained by me to perform quite naturally services you would hesitate to request from a professional, and very likely pregnant as well. What more could you ask?
All right, Vicomte, I admit. You've more than done your duty. Shame you let the other one slip through your fingers. I can only assume that's what's happened.
I let her go. Can you imagine? I took pity on her. She was ready. The die was cast, and the bill was paid, and I relented. And you know, she vanished like a thief in the night.
Why did you let her escape?
I was moved.
Oh, well, then no wonder you bungled it.
I had no idea she was capable of being so devious.
Poor woman, what else can you expect? To surrender and then not be taken would try the patience of a saint.
Yes, well, it won't happen again.
What you mean is, you won't get the chance again.
Yes, this time, I have a foolproof plan.
Oh, another one?
Absolutely guaranteed. I have an appointment to visit her at her house on Thursday, and this time I'm going to punish her.
I'm pleased to hear it.
Why do you think we only feel compelled to chase the ones who run away?
Immaturity.
My life's misery, you see. I love her. I hate her. I'm furious with her. So I've got to have her, so I can pass all these feelings on to her and be rid of them. Now what's going on in your life?
Well, Bella Roche is about to fall by the wayside.
But this is excellent.
I've smothered him with so much affection, the poor man can hardly stand up. He's desperately trying to devise some graceful means of escape.
Long overdue, in my opinion.
And his successor has already been marked out.
Oh, and who's the lucky man?
I'm not sure I care to tell you just at the moment.
Very well. Then I shall have to conceal from you the details of my foolproof plan.
That seems to me an acceptable bargain.
What's the matter?
Nothing. I think I may have kept our young friend waiting long enough.
I shall call on you sometime soon after Thursday.
Only if you succeed. I'm not sure I could stand another catalogue of incompetence.
I shall succeed.
I hope so. Once upon a time, you were a man to be reckoned with.
I understand Father Ansel has explained to you the reasons for my visit.
Yes. He said you wished to be reconciled with me before beginning instruction.
That's right.
But I see no need for formal reconciliation with you.
No, not after I have, as you have said, insulted you, and you have treated me with unqualified contempt.
Contempt? What do you mean?
You run away from my aunt's house in the middle of the night. You refuse to answer or even receive my letters, and all this after I had shown restraint, of which I think we are both aware. I would call that at the very least contempt.
I'm sure you understand me better than you pretend, monsieur.
Forgive me. I didn't come here to crave reproaches. You know your virtue has made as deep an impression on my soul as your beauty has on my heart. I suppose I imagine that made me worthy of you. What has happened is probably just punishment for my presumption. My life has had no value since you refused to make it beautiful. All I wanted from this meeting, madam, is your forgiveness for the wrongs you think that I've done you, so that I may at least end my days in some peace of mind.
But you won't understand. I couldn't do what you wanted. My duty wouldn't allow me to.
It was me you ran away from, wasn't it?
I had to leave.
And you have to keep away from me.
I do.
Forever.
I must.
Well, then I think you will find your wish that we be separated will succeed beyond its wildest dreams.
Your decision is...
It's a function of my despair. I'm as unhappy as you could have ever wanted me to be.
I've only ever wanted your happiness.
How can I be happy without you? I must have you or die. Death it is. Forgive me. All I ever wanted was to live for your happiness. And I destroyed it. Now I want to give you back your peace of mind, and I destroy that too. I'm not used to passion. I can't deal with it. But at least this is the last time, so be calm.
It is difficult when you are in this state, monsieur.
Yes, well, it won't last very long. These were the only things which might have weakened my courage, these deceitful pledges of your friendship. They're all that reconciled me to life.
I understood that you wanted to return them to me, and that you now approved of the choice my duty has compelled me to make.
Yes, a choice which has determined mine.
Which is what?
The only choice capable of putting an end to my suffering.
What do you mean?
Listen, I love you more than you could ever know. Remember, I've made far more difficult sacrifices than the one I'm about to make. Now goodbye.
No,
Let go.
you must listen to me.
I
to go.
No!
Why should you be so upset by the idea of making me happy?
Yes. You're right. I can't live either unless I make you happy. So I promise. No more refusals. And no more regrets.
Success!
At last.
But worth waiting for.
So it actually worked, your foolproof plan.
Of course, it wasn't foolproof. I was exaggerating to cheer myself up. But I did prepare the ground as carefully as I could. And I must say, considering these last few weeks, my letters were all returned unopened. Or should I say my letters, since I simply placed it in a fresh envelope every other day. The result has been a genuine triumph.
And the plan?
I discovered, by intercepting her correspondence in the usual manner, that she had very wisely decided to change her confidant, and was now pouring out all her inmost thoughts to my aunt. So very suddenly, and aided by the fact I looked terminally exhausted from my exertions with Cecile, I began to hint to my aunt that I was losing the will to live, knowing that this would be passed on. At the same time, I began corresponding with her confessor, an amiably dim-witted Cistercian who had more or less forced to arrange the meeting with her in exchange for the privilege of being allowed to save my soul, a privilege he will now, poor man, be obliged to forgo. So the threat of suicide, the promise of reform.
I'm afraid I can't say I find that very original.
Effective, though.
Tell me about it.
Well, I arrived about 6.
Yes, I think you may omit the details of seduction. They're never very enlightening. Just describe the event itself.
It was unprecedented.
Really?
Yes, it had a kind of charm I don't think I've ever experienced before. Once she'd surrendered, she behaved with total candor, total mutual delirium, which for the first time ever with me outlasted the pleasure itself. She was astonishing, so much so that I ended by falling on my knees and pledging her eternal love. And do you know, at the time, and for several hours afterwards, I actually meant it.
I see.
It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Is it? It seems to me rather commonplace.
No. No, I assure you. But of course, the best thing about it is that I am now in a position to be able to claim my reward.
Huh? You mean to say you persuaded her to write you a letter as well during the course of this awesome encounter?
No, I didn't necessarily think you were going to be a stickler for formalities.
Do you know, Vicomte? Even if you had arrived here with a letter up your sleeve, I'm not sure I wouldn't have had to declare our arrangement null and void.
What do you mean?
I'm not accustomed to being taken for granted.
There's no question of that, my dear. What in another case might be taken for presumption, taking you for granted, in our case can simply be accepted as a sign of our friendship and confidence in each other, can't it?
I've no wish to tear you away from the arms of someone so astonishing.
We've always been frank with one another.
And, as a matter of fact. I myself have taken on a new lover, who at the moment is proving more than satisfactory.
Oh, and who's that?
I'm not sure I'm in the mood for confidences this evening. Don't let me keep you.
I can't seriously imagine there's a woman in the world I could ever prefer to you.
I'm quite sure you're willing to accept me as an addition to your harem.
No. No, you've misinterpreted. I'd sacrifice anything or anybody to you. You know that.
All right, Vicomte. Let's discuss this calmly, shall we? Like friends.
By all means.
There's a strange thing about pleasure, haven't you noticed? It's the only thing that brings the sexes together, and yet it's not sufficient in and of itself to form the basis of a relationship. You see, unless there is some element of love involved, pleasure must lead directly to disgust.
I'm not sure I agree with that.
Now, fortunately, it's only necessary for this love to be felt on one side. The partner who feels it is naturally the happier, while the partner who doesn't is somewhat compensated by the pleasures of deceit.
I don't think I see your point.
My point, Vicomte, is that you and I can in no way conform to this essential pattern. Card sharps must sit at separate tables.
Yes, then they compare notes.
But without, I think, dealing a new hand.
I can't entirely accept the analogy.
Don't worry. I shan't go back on our agreement. I have to go away for a couple of weeks.
What for?
A private matter.
There's a time you kept no secrets from me.
Don't you want me to finish?
Of course. I'm sorry.
When I've returned, and upon receipt of this famous letter, you and I will spend a single night together. I'm sure we shall both find it sufficient. We shall enjoy it enough to regret that it is to be our last, but then we shall remember that regret is an essential component of happiness, and part the best of friends.
I think we should take it one step at a time, don't you?
No, I think we should be under no illusions.
You see, I don't think I've ever been unfaithful to you.
You know, Vicomte, instead of trying to work on me in this, let's be frank, mechanical fashion. You should be thanking me.
What for?
My courage, my clear-sightedness, my stout resistance. I understand you see what's going on.
Well, that's more than I can claim.
I know. You may be genuinely unaware of this, but I can see quite plainly that you're in love with this woman.
No, you're wrong. Not at all.
Have you forgotten what it's like to make a woman happy? And to be made happy yourself?
Of course not.
We loved each other once, didn't we? I think it was love. And you made me very happy.
And I could again. You just untied the knot. It was never broken. It was just a temporary failure of the imagination.
No. There would have been sacrifices you couldn't make and I wouldn't deserve.
But I told you, any sacrifice you ask.
Illusions, of course, are by their nature sweet.
You see, I have no illusions. I lost them on my travels. Now I want to come home. As for this present infatuation, it won't last. For the moment, it's beyond my control.
You'll be the first to know when I return.
Make it soon. I want it to be very soon.
Good night. He's gone.
I thought he'd be here all night. Time has no logic when I'm not with you. An hour is like a century.
We shall get on a good deal better if you make a concerted effort not to sound like the latest novel.
I'm sorry.
Never mind. Take me upstairs.
What is it?
Someone who might not well appreciate your presence here.
You mean a woman?
A lady, you might even say.
Oh, well then. Not that one you wrote that letter to.
The very one.
I enjoyed that.
You proved a most talented desk.
I'd very much like to see her.
Well, you can't. On second thought, I don't see why not.
Ooh,
Provided there's no bad behavior.
not unless required.
Where's your Dutchman?
Safe in Holland, far as I know.
And do you have any appointments for later?
Few friends for dinner.
And after dinner?
Nothing firm.
Then I may well have to call round on you.
I'll be there.
This is an unexpected pleasure.
Evidently.
Take no notice of Emily. She's notoriously eccentric.
I know that woman.
Are you sure? I'd be surprised.
She's been pointed out to me in the opera.
Well, yes, she is striking.
She's a courtesan, isn't she?
I suppose in a manner of speaking.
Let me go.
But what's got into you?
I'm sorry I disturbed you.
No, you haven't disturbed me. I'm overjoyed to see you.
Please let me go now.
No, I can't. This is absurd.
Let go!
Please, sit down. You must let me explain.
No!
Now listen.
And you will never be received in my house again!
Sit down, calm down.
No!
Have a glass of champagne.
No!
Unfortunately, not unlived years I lived before I met you. And as I've explained to you before, I had a wide acquaintance, the vast majority of whom I'm sure were undesirable in one respect or another. Now, it may surprise you to know that Emily, in common with many others of her character and profession, is kind-hearted enough to take an interest in those less fortunate than herself. She has, in short, the free time and inclination to do a great deal of charity work. Donations to hospitals, soup for the poor, protection of animals, and anything which touches her sentimental heart. From time to time, I make small donations to her purse. That's all.
Is that true?
My relations with Emily have been, for some years now, quite blameless. She's even done a bit of secretarial work for me on occasion. Of course, now that I know your feelings on the matter, I'll take steps to make sure she is never again received here.
Why did she laugh?
I don't know. Malice, perhaps? Jealousy? Girls of that class are often unpredictable, and I'm at a loss to explain it.
Well, does she know about me?
No doubt she made what, in view of my past, is a fair assumption.
I want to believe.
I knew you were coming up. You were announced. Do you seriously imagine if I felt the slightest guilt about Emily, I would have allowed you to see her here?
I suppose not.
No.
I'm sorry.
No. No. I must apologize. It was most insensitive of me. Some aspects of my old persona remain. That was the thoughtless action of a man who never met you. I didn't think it was possible for me to love you more, but your jealousy.
I love you so much.
The porter appears to be under the impression that you are still out of town,
I have in fact only just returned.
without attracting the attention of your porter. I think it may be time to review your domestic arrangements.
I was exhausted from my journey. Naturally, I informed my porter to tell casual callers that I was out.
And you here as well, my dear young man. It appears the porter's having a somewhat erratic evening.
Oh, well, yes.
I must say, I'm glad to have found you. I've been trying to contact you for some days now.
Have you?
Mademoiselle Cecile returns to Paris after an absence of over 2 months. What do you suppose is uppermost in her mind? Answer, of course, being the longed-for reunion with her beloved Chevalier.
Vicomte, this is no time to make mischief.
Nothing could be further from my mind, madam.
Go on.
Imagine her distress and alarm when her beloved one is nowhere to be found. I've had to do more improvising than an Italian actor.
But how is she? Is she all right?
Oh, yes. Well, no, to be quite frank with you, I'm sorry to tell you she's been ill.
Ill?
Whether it was brought on by her anxieties, it's impossible to say. But it seems about a week ago they were compelled to send for the surgeon, and for a while, he was very concerned.
But this is terrible.
Calm yourself. She's been declared well on the road to recovery and is convalescing now. But you can imagine how desperate I've been to find you.
Of course, my God, how could I not have been here at such a time? How could I ever forgive myself?
But look, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. All is well, as you see now. I have it from the surgeon himself, and I shan't disturb you further. It's just I had a letter, the contents of which I thought might be of interest to the Marquise.
Chevalier, if you care to go upstairs for a few minutes, there's a matter I must discuss with the Vicomte in private. Don't worry, I shan't be long.
But I'm worried about Cecile.
I don't think there's anything to be done at this hour of the night. You can inquire after her tomorrow.
Well, all right, if you say so.
I do.
I'm sorry, Vicomte.
Don't worry yourself about it, my dear boy. Everything is as it should be.
Thank you. Thank you.
I see she writes as badly as she dresses.
I think I'm right in saying that it's the content, not the style, which is of the importance.
I do hope you're not going to be difficult about Danceny. It was a complete coincidence he arrived at the gates at the same moment as my carriage.
Really, my love, this is hardly worthy of you, considering the uncharacteristic mystery you made about the identity of your new lover, and Danceny's and your simultaneous disappearance from Paris. I would have had to have been a good deal stupider, even than you seem to assume I am, not to have reached the obvious conclusion. If Danceny and your carriage arrived at the gates at the same moment, I imagine it's because he was in it.
You're quite right, of course.
And furthermore, I happen to know this moment of which we speak occurred 2 days ago.
Your spies are efficient.
So much for me being the first to know when you returned to Paris. A lesser man might allow himself to get angry.
Such a man might risk losing his ability to charm without necessarily enhancing his power to persuade.
I must say, I'm not surprised you chose to be reticent over so manifestly unsuitable a lover.
My motive had nothing whatever to do with his suitability.
I mean, I know Bella Roche was pretty limp, but I do think you could have found a livelier replacement than that mawkish schoolboy.
Mawkish or not, he's completely devoted to me. And I expect better equipped to provide me with happiness and pleasure than you are in your present mood.
I see.
So is it really true the little one has been ill?
More a refurbishment than an illness.
What can you mean?
Well, once Cecile returned to Paris, some money for the porter and a few flowers from his wife were enough to enable me to resume my nocturnal visits, which incidentally, don't you agree, puts Danceny's initiative in a very poor perspective. However, no doubt the ease of it made us overconfident. And one night while we were resting after our exertions, the door, which we'd forgotten to lock, blew open. The most dreadful shock. Cecile threw herself out of bed and tried to jam herself between it and the wall. Sudden severe backache gave way to some unmistakable symptoms, and after that, it was a real test of ingenuity trying to get the surgeon round without giving ourselves away.
But evidently you succeeded.
Can you imagine, my dear, Cecile wasn't even aware of being pregnant. She certainly doesn't devote any undue energy to thinking.
Well, Vicomte, I'm sorry for the loss of your son and your corsair.
Oh, aren't you pleased? You seemed rather disturbed when I first told you.
Well, once I began to get used to the idea, I started to enjoy it. I think you should make another attempt, don't you?
No. I rather thought the time had come to pass her on to young Dawson.
No, I'm not sure that would be advisable just at the moment.
Oh, you don't?
If I thought you might be your charming old self, I might invite you over one evening next week.
Really?
I still love you, you see, in spite of all your faults and my complaints.
I'm touched. What else will you exact before honoring our agreement?
I have a friend who became involved, as sometimes happens, with an entirely unsuitable woman. Whenever any of us pointed this out to him, he invariably made the same feeble reply. "It's beyond my control," he would say. He was on the verge of becoming a laughingstock. Finally, one of my friends, a woman, decided to speak to him seriously and, most importantly, drew his attention to this linguistic foible of which he'd previously been unaware. She told him that his name was in danger of becoming ludicrously associated with this phrase for the rest of his life. So do you know what he did?
You're sure you're about to tell me?
He went round to see his mistress and bluntly announced he was leaving her. She protested vociferously, but to everything she said, to every objection she made, he simply replied, "It's beyond my control."
I must leave you to your lessons.
You're only 5 minutes late, but I get so frightened. I become convinced I'm never going to see you again.
My angel.
Is it like that for you?
Oh, yes. The moment, for example. Quite convinced I'm never going to see you again. I'm so bored, you see. It's beyond my control.
What do you mean?
After all, it's been 4 months. So what I say is it's beyond my control.
Do you mean you don't love me anymore?
My love had great difficulty outlasting your virtue. It's beyond my control.
It's that woman, isn't it?
You're right. I've been deceiving you with Emily. Among others. It's beyond my control.
Why are you doing this?
Perhaps your merciless vulnerability has driven me to it. Anyway, it's beyond my control.
I can't believe this is happening.
There's a woman, you see. Not Emily, another woman. A woman I adore, and I'm afraid she's insisting I give you up. It's beyond my control.
Liar!
You're right! I am a liar! It's like your Why don't you take another lover? As you like, of course. It's beyond my control.
Do you want to kill me?
Listen to me. You've given me great pleasure. But I just can't bring myself to regret leaving you. It's the way of the world. Quite beyond my control.
Is that you? You're early.
Emma, I wanted to ask you. That story you told me, how did it end?
I'm not sure I know what you mean.
Once this friend of yours had taken the advice of his lady friend, did she take him back?
Am I to understand?
The day after our last meeting, I broke with Madame de Tourvel on the grounds that it was beyond my control.
You didn't.
I certainly did,
Seriously?
on my honor.
With the anticipated results?
She was prostrate when I left. I called back the next day.
You went back.
Yes, but she declined to receive me.
You don't say.
Subsequent inquiries established that she'd withdrawn to a convent,
Indeed.
and she's still there. A very fitting conclusion, really. It's as if she'd been widowed. You kept telling me that my reputation was in danger. I think it may well turn out to be my most famous exploit. I believe it sets a new standard. I think I could confidently offer it as a challenge to any potential rival for my position. Only one thing could bring me greater glory:
What's that?
to win her back.
You think you could?
I don't see why not.
I'll tell you why not. Because when one woman strikes at the heart of another, she seldom misses. And the wound is invariably fatal.
Is that so?
I'm so convinced it's so I'm prepared to offer you any odds you care to suggest against your success. You see, I'm also inclined to see this as one of my greatest triumphs.
There's nothing a woman enjoys as much as a victory over another woman.
Except you see, Vicomte, my victory wasn't over her.
Of course it was. What do you mean?
It was over you. That's what's so amusing. That's what's so genuinely delicious.
Don't know what you're talking about.
You love that woman, Vicomte. What's more, you still do. Quite desperately. If you hadn't been so ashamed of it, how could you have treated her so viciously? You couldn't even bear the vague possibility of being laughed at. And the spirit of something unsuspected. That vanity and happiness are incompatible.
Whatever may or may not be the truth to these philosophical speculations, the fact of the matter is, it's your turn to make a sacrifice.
Is that right?
Danceny must go.
Where?
I've been more than patient about this little whim of yours. But enough is enough, and I really must insist you call a halt to it.
One of the reasons I've never remarried, despite a quite bewildering range of offers, was the determination never again to be ordered around. I decided if I felt like telling a lie, I'd rather do it for fun than because I had no alternative. So I must ask you to adopt a less marital tone of voice.
She's ill, you know. I've made her ill for your sake. So the least you can do is get rid of that colorless youth.
I should have thought you had enough of bullying women for the time being.
Right. I see I shall have to make myself very plain. I've come to spend the night, and I shall not take at all kindly to being turned away.
I am sorry. I'm afraid I've made other arrangements.
I knew there was something. Something I had to tell you. What with one thing and another, it slipped my mind.
What's that?
Don Snee isn't coming. Not tonight.
What do you mean? How do you know?
I know. Because I've arranged for him to spend the night with Cecile. Come to think of it, he did mention he was expected here. But when I put it to him that he really would have to make a choice, I must say he didn't hesitate for a second. I dictated a letter for Cecile to send to him, as insurance. But as it turned out, there was no need to be so cautious. He knew his mind.
And now I know yours.
He's coming tomorrow to explain to you, and to offer you, do I have this right? Yes, I think so. His eternal friendship. As you say, he's completely devoted to you.
That's enough, Vicomte.
You're right. Shall we go up?
Shall we what?
Go up. Unless you prefer this, if memory serves, rather purgatorial sofa.
I believe it's time you were going.
No, I don't think so. We made an arrangement, and I really don't think I can allow myself to be taken advantage of a moment longer.
Remember, I'm better at this than you are.
Perhaps. But it's always the best swimmers who drown. Now, yes, or no, I wouldn't dream of trying to influence you, so I shall simply confine myself to say that a no will be regarded as an act of war. So one word is all that it takes.
All right. War!
I know it was easy for you to make a fool of me when I trusted you, but out here I think you'll find there's very little room for trickery.
I recommend you conserve your energy for the business in hand. Two things. A request and a word of advice, which of course you may ignore, but it is honestly intended.
Go on.
The advice is be careful of the Marquise de Merteuil.
You must permit me to treat with skepticism anything you have to say about her.
Nevertheless, I must tell you that in this matter we are both her creatures.
And the request?
I want you to get somehow to see Madame de Tourvel.
I understand she's very ill.
Yes, that's why this is most important. I want you to tell her that I can't explain why I broke with her as I did. but that since then my life has been worth nothing. I drove the blade in deeper than you just have, my boy, and now I want you to help me withdraw it. Tell her that I'm glad to have gone and she's lucky to not to have to live without me. Tell her her love was the only real happiness I've ever known.
I will.
Thank you.
It's all well and good doing that now.
Let him be. He had good cause. I don't think that's anything anyone's ever been able to say about me.
Madame?
Forgive me. At my age, it seems reasonable to hope to be spared any further personal tragedies, but two in the space of a few days.
Of course, madame.
And I was just thinking, when you were last in Paris a year ago, do you remember that conversation we had? We were trying to decide who's the happiest and most enviable person we knew. And we both decided it was Madame de Teichner.
You were with her, were you not, when she died?
I was with her from the day she ran away to the convent. She'll never forget those terrible sights. How she ripped away the bandages after they bled her, the delirium and the convulsions. How she wasted away. Still, I think she might have recovered if that unfortunate young man hadn't somehow let her know your nephew had died. After that, she simply lost the will to live. Apparently, after it was done, the Vicomte convinced Danceny that Madame de Teichner was the only woman he'd ever loved.
That's enough! I think we should respect the sensibilities of our friend.
No, I firmly believe that was the truth.
Well, madame, I don't know how we shall ever know for sure. And your daughter?
She seems quite adamant. I've appealed to her and pleaded with her, but she won't budge. I did want to ask your advice about this, both of you. Monsieur de Gercourt is expected back any day now. Is there nothing to be done? Must I really break off such an advantageous match?
Oh, surely not.
I'm afraid you must.
But why?
I'd rather you didn't ask.
Madame, I'm afraid you must provide a reason if you ask our friend to sacrifice so glorious a future.
To be perfectly honest, Madame, and in spite of his crime, I'd rather marry Cecile to Danceny than see my only child become a nun.
As a matter of fact, I've heard from Danceny. He sent me a very strange letter from Malta.
Oh, is that where he ran away to?
On second thought, my dear, perhaps it would be better to defer to Madame's wisdom and experience. Perhaps it would be better to leave Cecile in the convent.
But there must be a reason.
These have been a terrible few weeks. The time passes so quickly. A new year tomorrow and halfway through the 80s already. I used to be afraid of growing old, but now I trust in God and accept. I dare say we wouldn't be wrong to look forward to whatever the 90s may bring. And now I suggest our best course is to continue with the game.